Right, so today we're going to be going on to the next step in this process of stretching the fusion from a 121 to a 136. And the way we're going to get there is I'm going to be using the SLP extension rails from Starting Line Products. The part number is 31-210. I picked these up from High Performance Engineering. They're $91 plus shipping. So essentially what you're going to get in the kit is these two rails, a couple shortened blocks for the axle, because the dimension is a little bit different, so you have to use those axles, spacers, and some hardware. So essentially what you need to do is, first thing you have to do is you have to remove the rear axle and idler from the rails, and that's just accomplished by using a 9/16 ratchet in the socket, and then the axle will come right off. That's pretty easy. But then the next part that you need to do is you have to go through the process of removing the existing stock track tensioners. And you have a couple ways to do that. I already went ahead and removed them, but there they are. They're sitting right there. So you have a couple options as far as removing the tensioners, because they're held on there by a hardened rivet. So you can either drill them out or you can grind them off. I decided to use my 4.5-inch angle grinder to zip them off versus drilling them. Just for the sense it was a little bit quicker, a little bit easier, and then versus drilling, because I didn't have a lot of titanium nitride coated drill bits, and I didn't want to burn up my drill bits trying to get those rivets out, so I just used the angle grinder. Once I did that, it was just a matter of grinding off the heads on the back side of the rails and then popping them out with a drift and a punch. The only problem I had was with this guy right here. For whatever reason, it didn't want to come out. I think the rivet was expanded a little bit in the hole. So I didn't have to drill that one out before it would finally pop out of the rail. But the other remaining three, once I zipped the heads off the rivet with the grinder, they popped right out. So I'm going to go ahead and do a test fit, and I'll come back and I'll let you know what needs to be done to mount up these extensions to the rails. All right, guys. So I went ahead and mounted the first rail, did the mock-up. Really can be simpler. Essentially what you're going to do is you're going to mount the extension on there using the original holes in the rail from where the adjuster was. You can mount those first, and then once you have those two mounted, what you're going to do is you're going to take a 1/4-inch drill, and you're going to drill two additional holes through there, and then you're going to mount your other two bolts, and then you take the two longer bolts that are in the kit, and then you're going to mount the adjuster back onto the rail. All right, so essentially that's it. The only problem I had was because we look at the rail, you can see there's a boss that essentially lines up with the original adjuster slot for the axle in the rail, and that is very tight. So what I would recommend is, and this is what I had to do on mine, take a file and basically you're going to hit the outside, the top and bottom edges, just take a little bit of material out of there, so it'll go ahead and slide right in. So while we go ahead and do that, we'll do the other side, and then we'll get the axle mounted. Right, so I just finished mounting the other rail. Pretty much the same process as the other side. Again, those pockets are pretty tight. So if you run into any issues where it's, you're having an issue getting it to seat in there, just grab a C-clamp and just put it on there, and tighten the two existing holes first so it doesn't slip out. Then throw the C-clamp on there to guide it in there, and it'll pop right in. So essentially the rails are mounted. Now I'm going to go ahead and mount the axle into the location. Alright, so the axle is back in place. Don't forget to use the shortened blocks that SLP supplies in the kit. They go on the outside, one per side. And there is a top and bottom, left and right on these blocks, in case you're ever wondering. And the way to tell is, if you look on all the blocks, doesn't matter if it's the SLP or the Polaris one, you'll see that there's a notch in the block. And essentially that is for the tensioner to hit when it's applying track tension. So it's a flat spot. So make sure you put that in the right orientation when you're putting it back together. And essentially that's it. So that's all the prep work that you need to do to mount the rails, and it's pretty straightforward. So why don't we go ahead and mount the suspension back in the sled and see how it looks. Alright, so I just finished putting the suspension back in. I actually ended up taking the extensions off just because it was easier for me to put the suspension in by myself. You don't have to do it. If you had another person to lift the track up and slide the suspension in and do all that, you don't have to do it. But you know, for me, I was working by myself, and it was just easier for me to take the extension rails back off and then drop the suspension back in, mount it back up, and then put the rails back on. So at this point, what you want to do is, as you can see, the track is essentially hanging down. I still have it suspended up in the air to make it a little bit easier. What you want to do now is kind of do your rough alignment, where you're going to take the majority of the slack out. And a good starting point is 1 inch of droop in the center of the track to get you close. And once you do that, you're essentially going to leave it right where it is until you get the chain case back together and start running it, and then check the alignment when it's actually running. Make sure that the clips aren't hitting on the front of the rails as it's coming down from the drive shaft. So I'm going to go ahead and do the initial tension, and then we'll come back. Alright guys, so as far as setting your initial tension on the track, I figured I would show you my method, and this is going to get you pretty close almost every time. So what you want to do is take a piece of material, it doesn't matter what it is. For this, I'm using a block of wood, right? And this particular block is not symmetrical, so I drilled a hole on it so I know which side is 1 inch, right? And what you want to do is you're going to find the lowest point of the track. And for this particular example, it's right below these reference holes in the rail. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your block of wood and set it right there, and then you're going to crank up the adjusters until you feel the slightest drag on it. And then you're going to take it out, go to the other side, and do the same thing. So doing it that way, this is going to get you very close as doing the alignment, and it's going to be very close as far as dialed in if you do it this way. So we'll go on to the next step, and we'll go from there. Thanks. Alright guys, so after you do your initial track tension, what you want to do next is essentially go around, do a final nut and bolt check, make sure you tightened everything up and nothing's loose, and just double check everything twice. So at this point, it's essentially done. The only thing I personally have left to do is I have to go to the dealer, get a new drive shaft bolt to put the chain case back together. But essentially it's done. So as you can see, again, like I always say, anybody can do this stuff. All you do is just a little time and patience and go to it and get it done. So I hope this helps everybody out. And again, as usual, if there's any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, anything like that, put it in the comments box and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.